Somewhere, right now, a pillar is cracking on the inside, and nobody can see it. Because from the outside, it still looks like it's holding everything up perfectly. That's what it looks like to be the strong one. The person everyone calls at 2 a.m., the one who never falls apart. Until, one day, quietly, they do. This isn't about weakness. It's about a kind of strength that's secretly, slowly breaking people down from the inside. Let's talk about why. Here's the setup. You've probably met this person. Maybe you are this person. Calm in a crisis. Reliable. The friend who always has it together. But there's a gap. A massive, invisible gap between how they're perceived and what's actually happening underneath. And that gap has a name in psychology. It's called emotional suppression. Suppression isn't the absence of emotion. It's emotion with the lid screwed on tight. And like any pressure cooker, it doesn't make the heat disappear. It just delays the moment it escapes. The question isn't if that pressure comes out, it's when. And by the time it does, most people have paid a price they never even saw coming. So where does this actually start? Almost never in adulthood. It usually starts in childhood, long before anyone's old enough to consent to the job. Maybe you were the calm kid in a chaotic house. Maybe a parent leaned on you emotionally before you were ready for that weight. Maybe you were simply praised for being no trouble at all. And here's the trap. It worked. Being steady got you praise, attention, love, even. Your brain quietly filed that away as a winning strategy. So it kept running, long after the chaos ended, long after you grew up. That old survival strategy never got the memo to switch off. Now, anytime someone near you shows distress, that same old programming fires, instantly, automatically. Whether or not you actually have anything left to give that day. Psychologists sometimes describe this on a scale: expressing, feeling, suppressing, numb. Most people move around on this dial depending on the day, but the strong one's needle gets stuck. Stuck so far in suppressing that it eventually slides into numb. You stop feeling the bad stuff, but here's the catch: you stop feeling the good stuff too. Researcher James Gross at Stanford found exactly this. Suppression isn't a laser. It doesn't just mute pain, it mutes everything. You can't selectively turn off sadness without turning down joy right alongside it. Let's make this concrete. Picture an empty backpack. That's you, at the start of any given week. A friend calls, upset. You listen, you fix, you hold their panic so they don't have to. That's a stone in the bag. Labeled, Mum's worry. Then work adds one. Then a friend's breakup. Then a family emergency. Every single stone gets added quietly, because you never say no. You're the strong one. That's the job. And the cruelest part, nobody else can see the weight. All they see is you, still walking, still standing. So they keep handing you stones. Here's a different way to see it. Imagine a dam. Behind it, a huge reservoir of emotion, grief, anger, fear, all of it, churning. The dam holds, for a while. But small cracks start to form. A headache that won't go away. Snapping at people over nothing. Lying awake at 3 a.m. for no clear reason. These aren't random. They're the dam talking to you. Trying to tell you something the mouth won't say out loud. Because emotional suppression doesn't just live in your mind. It floods your bloodstream with cortisol, your body's stress hormone. And chronic cortisol is expensive. It weakens your immune system. It strains your heart. It wrecks your gut. A Harvard and University of Rochester study found something staggering. People who habitually suppress emotion have a 30% higher risk of premature death. 30%. From bottling it up. But the cost isn't only physical. There's a quieter, stranger cost. Loneliness. Which sounds impossible, right? This person is surrounded by people who need them constantly. But look at the shape of those relationships. Everyone connects to the strong one. Almost nobody connects to each other or gives back the same way. It's a one-way web. Support flows out. It rarely flows in. And when help is finally offered, it feels strange, almost wrong, like a muscle that's never been used, stiff and unsure how to move. Researcher Julianne Holt-Lundstad found chronic loneliness carries the same health risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Being everyone's rock can, quietly, be one of the loneliest positions there is. Here's a pattern almost every strong one recognizes. Someone finally asks, "Are you okay?" And instead of answering honestly, you comfort their concern instead. You end up taking care of them for worrying about you, which puts you right back in the exact role you were quietly trying to escape. There's a name for what happens after years of this. Alexithymia, the inability to identify what you're even feeling anymore. Not because you don't feel, but because the wire connecting the feeling to the word has gone quiet. You know something is wrong. You just genuinely can't name it anymore, and you can't fix or even feel what you can't name. And here's where it gets even trickier. Over time, the role stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. Ask yourself that question honestly. If you stopped being the fixer, the rock, the one who always copes, who would you even be underneath that? For a lot of people, that question is terrifying enough that they never even try to test it. Stepping back feels less like rest and more like betrayal. But here's the important correction. Being the strong one was never your personality. It was a strategy, learned early, reinforced often, and anything that was learned can be relearned. Now here's the moment nobody warns you about. The breakdown, when it finally comes, is almost never triggered by something huge. It's a small thing, a minor disagreement, a missed text, a bad morning, something that, on any other day, wouldn't register at all. But the weight was never really about that one pebble. It was about every stone that came before it, that nobody, including you, ever tracked. And here's the aha. The crack isn't proof that you were never strong. It's proof that you were carrying weight that was never meant for one person to hold alone. Because here's the misconception underneath all of this. We were taught that strength means not feeling the hard stuff. That's backwards. Researcher Brené Brown put it simply. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to be seen, even when you can't control what happens next. Real strength doesn't look like one thick strand holding up an entire web alone. It looks like a distributed net, weight shared, support flowing in every direction, not just one. And the pillar that cracked and got repaired, it's not weaker than before. The cracks are just visible now, and visible cracks, it turns out, are far stronger than invisible ones. So what does rebuilding actually look like? It starts absurdly small, saying the honest sentence before the reassuring one. Today's been hard, full stop, no but I'm fine required. It means choosing at least one relationship where the performance is allowed to stop completely. You don't need everyone to see the unedited version. You need one. It means letting someone else carry a stone, on purpose, in a low-stakes moment. Not because you can't carry it, but because you're allowed not to. So let's bring it together. Being strong for other people was never the problem. The problem was believing you had to do it completely alone and completely silently. The gap between how you're seen and how you actually feel, that gap doesn't have to stay open forever. It closes, one honest sentence at a time. So maybe ask yourself tonight, who checks on you, and when's the last time you let them? You were never meant to hold the roof up alone. You just forgot, somewhere along the way, that you were allowed to put a few stones down.